If you didn't belong here, how did you even make it through the door?
You can truly learn and apply any information that you set your mind to. Think bigger.
We all bring valuable ideas to the table.
Remember the why, which is, seeking knowledge.
Ask questions and be brave.
And keep going after what you want. The impossible is not impossible.
Myria Perez is a paleontologist and fossil preparator. Fossils became her passion at an early age. And by the time she was 12, Myria was volunteering at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Now, she works at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History in the Deep Time Fossil Lab. Myria is also an If-Then Ambassador alum.
It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Myria Perez to This Is What a Scientist Looks Like. Hi, Myria. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat about the statue and my journey in STEM.
And we are definitely going to get into it. We love being able to have these conversations because we don't get to really talk to a lot of women who have been memorialized, right? And this is a really big thing. And we're going to talk about, what went into your thought process too, in deciding where your statue is going to go. But before we get into that, I kind of want to start off with something that I heard, as I was with my Google fingers and everything, looking everything up, heard a rumor that you were the Dinosaur Kid growing up. Is that true?
I'm still the Dinosaur Kid.
I love it. Tell us more, please.
So my mom claims that I was 2 when I decided that I wanted to be a paleontologist. I just have always been fascinated with fossils and prehistoric life. And so growing up, I just enjoyed going to the Houston Museum of Natural Science. And I do remember, I think I was pretty young, maybe not quite kindergarten, or maybe I was kindergarten, but I wanted to see the dinosaur hall the first thing, and then I had to go see it a second time before we left. So they have always been a part of my life.
That's amazing. And so you said your mom picked up at 2 years old for you that you were into dinosaurs. I'm guessing, was mom like really a big support system for you as you were exploring that? I mean, to have expressed it at such a young age.
Absolutely. She totally supported me and encouraged me, like any interest, which was dinosaurs. And I wanted everything to do with them. I had dinosaur toys. I would point before I could talk to go back to the dinosaurs or look up at the dinosaurs. And it's just because she had just supported me through that. I think that was a really big thing for me, being supported and continuing to follow that passion and continuing to be excited and learn more about fossils. We did crafts, and I think almost every birthday has been like a dinosaur cake. So my mom was also very creative, and she did all kinds of dinosaur cakes, and we had like a sand pit with like some dinosaurs in there for a birthday party. She's always still supportive. So
that is amazing. Okay, dinosaur cake. I wouldn't even begin to know how to do that. So again, big ups.
Love you, Mom.
Right. We appreciate you, Mom. That was fantastic. Wow, that's really wonderful to have support at such an early age. And it seems like so much of your STEM journey actually involves supportive community, right? And then you've spoken about this in the past, about how you found the Houston Museum, you were able to, convince them to let you volunteer even at such a young age, right? And then once you get into volunteering, you find mentors, you're asking questions about like, how do I become a paleontologist? And people are gathering around you. You entered drawing competitions, right? Like even before you started volunteering, and just kept showing up. And then the community responded to really be able to help support this passion that you kept showing that you have. As someone who benefited so early in life from community and from that supportive base of people, mentors. What does community mean to you now as you actually are in your STEM career?
It is, and honestly, If Then has provided me this wonderful opportunity to give back, because community has done so much for me at a middle school age. And then with the If Then initiative, like their focus is to get women, girls excited about science, especially middle school, because that is when a lot of girls decide if they want to pursue STEM. And when I saw this opportunity, I was like, this is the perfect place to give back, especially to that age group where it was so important for me during that time. And I hope I answered that right, but it kind of came full circle, which is really cool. Like, I finally made it. I finally got my first job as a paleontologist, and then I had the opportunity to share how I got there for people who would be, that age when I first started.
I don't want to be weird with this question, but I'm Southern and I'm nosy. Do you have any fossils in your house right now? Like, do you have any dinosaurs in your house or ancient amphibians?
I do have some fossils. I do have a real megalodon tooth. That was my grandfather's that he had growing up, and that was something that was really cool. This is an extinct shark that was extremely big, and it ate whales. We have megalodon teeth embedded in whale fossils, so we know that that is what was happening during this time period after the dinosaurs.
Wow.
I do.
Your grandfather had that.
Yeah, he. I don't know where he got it from, but he had this in his house growing up, and now it was given to me. The other thing too is I have a lot of casts of fossils, which are really cool, and you might see casts in your local museum as well. But they are 3D replicas. This is a T-Rex tooth of the actual fossil. And what's really great about these is they can be studied just like the real fossil. And it's not a fake fossil. It is what we call a replica. And it has all of the details. The really good cast will have all of the details. I don't know if you can see this, but there are little serrations. Let's see if I can get this close. Yeah, there you go.
Cracks and everything from
all of that.
Wear and tear.
Wear and tear, exactly. And you can see that, this is a whole tooth, including the root, which would be hidden in the gums. And then this is the part that would be showing outside of the mouth. So here's a T-Rex tooth, and here is a long neck Camarasaurus tooth, which is a big long neck dinosaurs. And it's so different, right? It's kind of like a scoop. And this is a great cast because you can see like it's got a little bit of shininess to it on parts of it. And that is to replicate the original fossil has enamel on it. And so a good cast, you'll want to replicate as much detail as you can with paint and with different textures. So casts are super, super cool and very important.
So, okay, this is great to know because I'm thinking that when you stumble upon something, right? Like it kind of belongs to everyone now at this point. So, I mean, are there rules, regulations around if you stumble across something ancient like this, how you go about reporting it or keeping it? Like, what does that look like usually?
So I can kind of speak for the US. So if you are looking to go look for fossils in your local area, just make sure you look up the rules and regulations in your state. Because if you find something valuable, it's so much better to let people know and let the park know, if you can search for fossils there at least, because it is knowledge that should be shared with everybody. It's much cooler to have something in a museum than in your home. And yes, there are fossil parks and there are things that you can take home, like shark's teeth in some cases. But just really make sure you do your research before doing that, because you can get in a lot of trouble, and you don't want that to happen.
know that you kind of walked us through a little bit when you were talking about, like the process that goes of making sure that the fossil is wrapped and things like that. But I'm thinking, with us being human and we have so many things on our bodies and oils that we exhibit, just, exude and things like that. How careful do you have to be when you're touching something, handling something? Is it easy to really like destroy it?
Yeah, it depends on the fossil. So with big vertebrate fossils, like dinosaur fossils and like the big bones, it's rock. So a lot of cases it's probably fine. Like the oil is not a big deal. But you do have to be worried about if the fossil is really crumbly. That can be a little tricky sometimes. Fossil leaves and fossil insects are very different. It's usually like a slab of rock where some layers have been peeled off, and you have, in some cases like the cuticle, which is the waxy surface of the leaf, that is still preserved. And if you touch that, it's not good because it can take that off, and you can ruin all of these really, really small details on the fossil. So each type of fossil has their own, and each fossil really has their own kind of way that you have to be careful when handling it.
That's so cool. My goodness. I mean, your work is just so intricate, and um, you have to keep a lot of things on your mind, huh, while you're in the field and while you're in the laboratory with things. How do you meditate?
I should. um, when I prep fossils, it's kind of a meditative state. I don't know. You get in the groove, and you get really used to the tool that you're using, and you know when to stop. And some people will say, like, isn't that tedious? Because I'm honestly really not a patient person, but I have all the patience in the world for a fossil. And I think that's because you're looking under usually a magnification or in a microscope. And so when you're, prepping, you're getting all this rock off a fossil, you're making so much progress because you're looking in the scope. And then people looking at me from outside are just seeing like my hand going like this. And inside my view, it's like, so on my end, it looks like I'm making a ton of progress, and it's very satisfying, but it is slow work.
I love it. And perspective is everything, right? Like,
Yes.
You're making huge progress, and
Yeah.
that's the good part of what matters. I love it. So, do you have any other little dinosaur things hiding around in the?
I do. I can introduce you to a very weird ancient shark that lived before the dinosaurs. That was eaten and lived during the same time as our Dimetrodon. This is the sailback reptile that lived before the dinosaurs, and you'll see this guy in a lot of assorted dinosaur toys. But this is actually closer in relation to us mammals than it is to reptiles, which is kind of fun. But it's got that big sail back. But during the Permian period, we also had sharks that are like this. And this is Orthocanthus. It's a freshwater shark. And it's so bizarre because it has this little spine on it that was on a ball and socket joint, so it can go everywhere. And we think that was a defense mechanism from these guys, because we do have evidence that Dimetrodon was eating this shark, Orthocanthus here.
Oh, wow. So maybe with that thing on his head, it was going, whoop pop, like, get away from me.
Exactly. It had little arms on it too, which is kind of fun. So out in the field, they're fairly common. That was another thing that I found a lot on my digs in Seymour, Texas, is those shark spines. The sharks don't fossilize as well because they're made out of cartilage, like your nose and your ears. And so the spines are, and sometimes we get some cartilage, but the spines preserve. And it's so bizarre, and they're all over the place.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you for that little walk through some natural history. That was fantastic. Okay. How often do you get to collaborate in your work?
Every single day. And that is something that I, through IF Then, have tried to kind of tell people is that you're not just this, scientist with crazy hair in a lab all by yourself. Like, you are working with everybody. You're working with colleagues. It's not, and it shouldn't be just you working on a project. It's all about, I think communication is so important in science because you're checking to make sure you're doing things correctly. You're collaborating with people and getting ideas from people. So science is extremely collaborative, or it should be at least. And that's what I also love about it.
Yeah. I also heard that you really enjoy field work.
I love it. It's really cool. You get to go and explore and see something that no other human has ever seen in millions of years. And it's a discovery. It's you get kind of a shot of adrenaline when you find something, and does it continue to go? And then it's kind of CSI because you're looking at little pieces. All right, where are these coming from? Okay, I know that this is the layer I'm looking at. They should be eroding up, so I need to look up and trace them up. It's just very, it's very fun.
My goodness. I wonder, because sometimes as we do our work, it can also help us discover things about ourselves. Have you ever had these moments within doing, field work, for example, that you started to understand some things about yourself that you maybe hadn't realized before you got into that experience within the work?
Within field work,
Mm-hmm.
I think I definitely learned that that you have to be in tune with your body and make sure that your safety goes first, because you can definitely get very sucked into what you're doing because it's so exciting. And so I learned, okay, I actually need to be able to take care of myself and make sure I'm hydrated and I'm eating, because it can be dangerous out in the field. And you want to make sure that you and your crew are safety first. And that's something I learned the hard way in some of my early field work. I did not take care of myself and ended up in the hospital. So being aware of your body while you are outside is very important.
My goodness. Okay. Yeah. So we don't see that in the movies, Like you said, they usually show us just the lone scientist, they're not really giving us the glimpses into so many things you have to be aware of, so wow, to look at the amount of field work you've been able to do. And I guess technically you started off as a kid, technically, right? Like what was your first dig?
I think I was about 13 at the time, and the Houston Museum took a crew up, including myself and my mother, to Seymour, Texas, this little town outside of Wichita Falls, and about 3 hours from Dallas-Fort Worth area. And they are known for these beautiful red outcrops, these beautiful red rocks that house Permian fossils, probably the world's best Permian fossils. And if you've ever gotten a packet of dinosaur toys, and there's this little lizard in there with like a sail on its back, that's Dimetrodon, and Dimetrodon is found in this area. They're not dinosaurs, but they're famous for these animals. And I remember going out and finding my first fossil out on a dig. And I was sitting there digging, and I found this little, what looked like a tooth. And so I kept going, kept digging, following that fossil. And it just turned out pretty long. And I was like, okay, maybe it's a rib. And then it started to widen out and become really thin. And so I was like, what is this? So I called over my mentors that were out on the dig with me, and they said, that's an Ariops scapula. It's the shoulder blade of a really cool amphibian, really big amphibian out in the field. And I just remember being so excited through the whole process of discovering and trying to figure out what this was. And it just kept going. And that was very exciting, and to also have my mentors there to help identify and congratulate on like the first fossil on the dig.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Did you hold it up like the Lion King and show it to everybody?
I think I did when it was in a protective jacket. So when out in the field, we don't do a whole lot of very fine detail prep, but we uncover enough to where we can see what we can of the fossil, and then we cover it. We create kind of like a cast when you break your arm, like the plaster. So we cover it in plaster and then take it out, and then we prep it further. But yes, I think I do remember like being like, oh, this is my first fossil out in the field.
That is so cool. My goodness. And I mean, what runs through your mind at that age to be so young and to actually be holding a piece of not just history, right? But I mean, this is ancient, right? These are our ancestors in so many ways. To be holding something like that at such a young age, what went through your mind?
It was pretty incredible. I just remember being on cloud nine, and it just reinforced that this is something that I want to do. Like this is it. Like this is my path. And I knew that before, but it just solidified. This is what I want to do.
I love it. So, again, back to the statues, because I know we promised we were going to come back to that. So now we're back at it. As you're, thinking about something like, my goodness, where do I want this statue to be placed? What were some of the things that you took into consideration, and where did you end up deciding to place your statue with IFNAT?
So that very town where I found the first fossil that we just talked about in Seymour, Texas, I had gone back there a couple more times for excavations and prepped fossils from that area. And what better place to give the statue than to the Whiteside Museum of Natural History, which was later built while I was in college. How cool would that be to put my statue there for the school kids that are in that local area to see, like, this is where I got my start and this is what happened. So that's why I picked Seymour, Texas at the Whiteside.
Oh my goodness. So it's really kind of a 360 moment in so many ways. That's beautiful, to be able to do that. When I just think about your story, which you've been so generous with sharing, and how you've had this passion, this love from an early age, right? And to be able to carry it through to where you are now. So many times when we're talking to people, we say like, hey, what would you go back and tell your past self? But Myria, with you, I'm kind of curious, what would you tell your future self? If you were to talk to yourself into the future right now, what do you think you would say to her?
I would say, hey, like, I hope we still are true to ourselves. And, if stuff, things are going to be hard at some points, but to remember all of the good things that have happened and all of the wins that we've had are so important to remember.
Oh, I love that. So this has been a lot of fun. And now we have another section for you. Rapid fire.
I'm ready.
Okay, let's do it. Get into it. Are you listening to any podcasts or audiobooks right now?
Oh, yes. I listen, since I currently work in a lab where I'm doing fine detail work and I'm prepping for a couple hours, I'll usually listen to audiobooks and music. And I love Stuff You Should Know because it's just about random stuff. It could be history, it could be science, it could be art. And the two podcasters they learn as much as they can, and they talk about just random stuff. And they're so excited to talk about it. So I really love that podcast.
Okay. Is there anything particular that you do to decompress when you're not working?
Oh, I love art. So I've got an iPad with the app called Procreate, and I've been kind of experimenting because that's something that I really loved as a kid and through middle school that I've kind of dropped off. So getting back into art has been really fun. I also love watching videos of interior design. I think it's the creative part, you know? But yeah, I love animals and snakes. So like I just want to do everything.
Love that. Okay. Here's something memory lane wise. When you were in school, what subject did you struggle with the most?
Oh my gosh, math, 100%. And that's something that I want to say is like you can be in STEM and you can enjoy science even though maybe you struggle in math. I struggled with it the entire way. I still struggle with it. So, something I would want to tell my past self is that you don't have to be perfect to be in STEM. I feel like there is this stigma that you have to be a straight A student and everything to be involved in STEM, and that you have to get your PhD to be involved in STEM. And that is so not true. And something I learned, and I wish I had learned earlier, that you can be creative and be in STEM. You can have your bachelor's degree and be in STEM, or your master's. But not being so hard on myself when it came to math, because I just really struggled with it. And I almost wanted to stop my my geology degree because I was taking some pretty math heavy courses, and I'm like, I don't think I belong here. I can't seem to understand all of these math classes. Like, maybe I don't belong here. And that is, you know, another leaky pipeline, I think.
Oh my God, that's absolutely huge. There's so many things are about unpacking the stories that we've inherited, right? About what we think, how we think it's supposed to go, or how we think we have to be in order to do the things. So thank you for squeezing that in there, because we might need to loop that right now for ourselves. Let's see. Do you binge watch?
Yes.
You ever binge?
Oh,
Okay.
yes. I love trash TV. I also really like the good stuff. I've been watching the new season of Queer Eye, which is just lovely and heartwarming and makes you feel really good. So I think that's the one that I'm watching right now. It's pretty
Oh
good.
my goodness. That is one of my favorites too. It never gets old. I love it every single time. It always is able to just like expand my heart every time I watch it. What's the best advice that you ever received?
Ooh, the best advice. I think, well, I know the best advice I try to give others is to be brave and ask questions, because you know you never know what opportunity is going to open up for you if you ask, or just get the courage to send the email or to ask the question. You never know where that's going to lead you to, because that's what happened with me. I went to the Houston Museum for their Dino Days at 12, and I went up to the curators and I was like, how do I get involved? I really love fossils. I like, where can I go? And that's when they said, we'll take you on as a volunteer as long as you have your mother with you at a young age. But it just opened so many opportunities.
Wow. So you took your own advice.
Yeah. Like, I knew that I could be embarrassed, putting yourself out there or raising your hand. It's a hard thing to do, but for me, it was like, all right, I got to stomach this, because I know like what I'm going to get out of this could be life-changing. It could be something really good.
I love it. And again, because you asked the question, they actually said, well, let's figure out how to make this happen for you.
They just might say yes.
Right, they just might say yes. So, I love that. Myria, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation about, again, a journey that has involved a lot of support, taking risk on yourself and speaking up, and being able to hold something ancient and magnificent that helps us better understand life, even, like, and what we're doing on this planet. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today for This Is What a Scientist Looks Like.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so lovely.
Love it. And so we're at the end of our chat with Myria, but we are going to be dropping all the links and everything so that you will be able to keep up with her and the latest things on whatever she's digging up out of the earth. And be able to stay tuned on what's going on with the statues, Myria's, as well as the other If Then ambassadors. So until then, until next time, thanks for joining us. Bye, everyone.